Hi guys, it's DJ here from RC RC. Welcome to part 3 of my M950 build. This is a 950mm mono hull or 37.4 inches long. It's my own design. It belongs to the M series hulls, which I built and designed myself. And this is just going to be an awesome boat. And in this video I'm going to update you on the progress of the build. Quite a lot has been done to the hull since part 2. I carbon laminated the hull bottom and I also installed the water cooling. This is work in progress, not yet finished. We mounted the hardware, the steering servo got its position. I test fitted the Hobbywing Seeking 200 amp V4 version, and we also installed the motor, which is currently a 4092 1250 kV. I'm planning to run this on 8S, and this will be a 100 plus kilometers an hour or 62 plus miles an hour setup, and I think it's going to be a great bashing boat. So let's dive into the details. It's time to reinforce the inside of my M950 hull, and I'm going to reinforce it with carbon fiber. There is no real need for carbon fiber reinforcement, but I like the looks of it, and I also plan to run this boat real hard. So that's why I choose for carbon fiber. Basically a glass fiber weave will do also, and you don't even need to laminate all the surfaces. But if you are going to laminate it with glass fiber, at least I would glass these mid sections where the bottom plating is joined, because that is kind of a weak spot and you really want to have that strong. Until the bow it's already enclosed by this bulkhead, but from behind the bow all the way to the transom you can put a glass weave. I'm going for the real strong option, which is the carbon fiber weave, and I will also put it over here. So I cut some paper templates, and I'm going to copy the paper templates on the fiber weave. It's pretty straightforward. You just measure the length between the bulkheads, you cut the paper to size, and you leave the width of the paper more than what you need, and then you just press it on one side and on the other side with your finger. You make a line in the paper and you cut it with the scissors. So that's how I made these templates. I didn't put the template over here because it's exactly the same as this one. And obviously the ones on the side over here will mirror on this side, so there's no need to cut separate versions for these ones. This last part I opted for some overlap with the transom to make it real strong. Here I will put a stuffing tube through the transom, so some extra reinforcement is a nice bonus. And I will also laminate all the way upwards on these longitudinal bulkheads to make it a real strong assembly. I cut and prepared all the pieces, piece 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all laying here in double for the right and left side, and obviously the midsection is just a single one. So let's now laminate them into the hull. I got the epoxy mixed. I'm always using a cut sponge, which I cut into a triangle shape, and this is a perfect tool for laminating because it absorbs the epoxy, and when you push it onto the surface, the epoxy is squeezed out of the sponge and it will absorb into the laminate. So this is a perfect and cheap tool. So there's a top tip for you. Another tip is you don't want to touch, or you want to touch the fibers the least you can, because the strands of the fibers will come loose easily and it will mess up the result of your boat. So what I normally use is a scraper tool to pick up the fibers or the cut laminates, and that's how I treat them, not to disturb the strands. So I'm going to start in the midsection, first these, and then work my way to the outside. So first we're going to fully absorb my sponge tool, then squeeze the excess epoxy out of it, and then just fully cover the surface to be laminated with the sponge tool. A little bit more. You see, it's ideal to squeeze the epoxy into the corners as well. I think like this should be fine. So let's get the first laminate with the scraping tool very carefully. And now let's try to put it in. It is kind of a fiddly job, but basically patience is key here. Slowly work your way from the center to the outside. Like this. Push the laminate a little bit more into the corner here, if I'm still able to do that. A little bit more. There's no need to use an excess of epoxy because it won't make the boat any stronger, only heavier. But obviously you need to make sure that your laminate is fully absorbing the epoxy. So yeah, there's like a fine balance on how much you need to use. As soon as it starts to become glossy, or when there's a small a thin film on top of the laminate, you know that it is enough. There's enough epoxy in it. And I cut this weave a little bit higher, so there's some excess on the top, which I did on purpose, and I will cut away the excess as soon as the epoxy has dried. Alright, so here we got the hatch with the cockpit shape, and the cockpit shape will bend making an actual cockpit bubble. You might feel that it is scary to bend, but don't worry, you can really bend this easily and it won't break into the shape it needs. But before we're going to do that, we're going to sand the edges, and then we're going to tape this onto the table, and then we're going to glue it. Since it will be bended like this, I will also slightly bevel the edges with a sanding block like this, so the gluing surface is just increased a little bit. I slightly offset the hatch from the working table because these notches will probably extrude just a little bit, so I make space for them. And now we're going to glue the cockpit shape onto the hatch. I'm using super glue so that it sticks immediately. It's a little bit a fiddly job, but let's go for it. Basically, you want to connect the left and right side before you apply any glue. Well, that's already basically it. Just make sure that it is all nice and pushed into the cuts. And I now realize that I'm also going to put a small stringer over here so that I don't make a hollow shape when I glue the front of the hatch. Alright, now we got the shape glued, and the next step is to sand the top. Basically to sand it flush, because now the edges are beveled in, and obviously the top, the roof, is flat, so we need to create a flat surface to bond the roof on it. I'm going to use a big sanding block so I can easily cover the entire shape. The top part has a slight overlap, which is done on purpose so you can easily glue it, and after the glue has cured you can just sand it nice and flush with the sides. I actually cut a small strip of scrap wood, which is a leftover from the kit, from the wood plating that is included in the kit, and I'm going to glue it over here to make a nice filler, let's say, for the cockpit hatch to rest on. Now I'm going to apply the super glue and glue the roof on. I need to do it right the first time because the super glue will stick immediately. I got a small chisel, I think it's called in English, and I will carefully cut the excess of the roof part. I hope you enjoyed the build update. If you have any questions on the build so far or the future steps that I'm going to do, please leave a comment. In part 4 we're going to glass the entire hull. We're going to finish the driveline, mount the connectors, finish the water cooling, basically make it ready for the maiden run, so stay tuned. Okay guys, thank you for watching and I hope to see you next time. Bye!